morning, everyone. So, some of you already know about reThink. I'm not going to go into details, so I'm more going to summarize what we have achieved in this project and how we are currently using it in a smart cities project. Okay, so going directly for the motivation. So, a few years ago, in 2012 or 13, a group of researchers in different laboratories in the telcos were very excited with WebRTC. So that was the time when WebRTC was emerging. So were playing around with WebRTC. But we're also happy about not having a standard signalization protocol. But but we also understood that it would be nice to have as a way to get interoperability between different service providers. And by that time, so this group of researchers came out with an idea about taking advantage of having scripting languages executed in the browser. And so the idea is really a very simple one, where basically the protocol stack of the signaling protocol can be dynamically loaded to the browser. So from there, so we conceived this signaling on the fly concept. And some 1 year or 2 years later, so we also have a proof of concept of this. And so we proved that it works. And then we were a bit more ambitious. So we enlarged the group with different operators. And so from the market perspective, we were not very happy with the perspective that web players were really gaining ground. And also from the technical perspective, we could also see that lots of new technologies were emerging, and telcos were really not taking advantage of that. So by that time, we realized that it was a very good time to reThink communication. So we were very, very ambitious, starting from the zero, so from scratch, and at the end, to disrupt the web players themselves. Okay, so this project ended last year. Officially, so we got some funds from the European Commission, and so this was the consortium of the project. So we designed and implemented proof of concept of this new architecture. So right now we call it the reThink framework. And so the source code is available in the GitHub. We are quite happy with the results. The documentation you can also find in this site. And currently, we are maintaining the source code. So we are still working on that. We are using it in different projects. I'm going to talk about one that is about smart cities. So just a summary of what reThink is. So this is the baseline. So we wanted to follow really decentralized communications principles. What does it mean? It means that we wanted that any peer could communicate each other without having to have, trustfully, of course, without having to have a central authority. And at the end, to avoid what we currently have now, which is at the end, communication monopolies. And also interoperability, we believe, and we still believe, that it's a very important aspect. So we wanted to guarantee interoperability, but without having the pain of spending lots of resources and years on standardization bodies. And of course, it should be used in different use cases. So in general, human to human, human to machine, machine to machine. So we extended the signal on the fly concept to generic protocol on the fly. And what does it mean at the end is that we can achieve interoperability without, or with a very minimum a set of standardization efforts. So what we proved is that it's possible to get interoperability without having to know in advance what are the protocols or APIs that have to be in common between the peers. And basically, we have a protocol stack that you can download and deploy on the fly in the browser or in any device that can support scripting languages. Another proposal is about how to achieve trust. I should say that we are not using blockchain for this. So the basic idea is that the user has the power to decide what is the identity provider that will manage the identity, and also all the private data of the user in a separated way. So this means that the user can consume a service from some stakeholder, but then the identity can be managed by some another stakeholder, so another IDP. And then, okay, we can then set up a secured peer-to-peer communication between the peers by using the private and the public keys that are generated from the IDPs. And then a third aspect is also a new concept. This is more about software engineering. So we followed microservices architectural patterns. So this means that we got this idea about having a new kind of service component that we called Hyperlinked entity, which basically is, so it's a component that implements a small set of features without having to depend too much on the network. Okay, so that's the basic idea. And from the very beginning, we were very careful in terms of the APIs, and so really to care about, to make it easier, the life of the developer. So it should be very easy to develop new Hyperties, and on top of this, new applications. Okay, so that was the main three propositions of reThink, and currently we are using it in a smart cities project. That's what I'm now going to talk to you, and how we benefit from reThink. So this is the Sharing Cities project, where we have 6 main cities involved. So this is a really a wide-scale deployment of solutions in order to get some advantages of smart cities approaches. Yeah, I won't go into much details, but basically we want to achieve one interesting thing about this project is that it's not technical oriented. So this means that it's very citizen oriented. So it's not very much about how to use technologies, but it's really how citizens can benefit from the technologies, and at the end to achieve goals like improve urban mobility, how to get buildings more efficient in terms of energy, and of course reduce carbon emissions. Okay, so, and in this project, one of the things that we are doing with reThink is to implement this digital social market service or application. Yeah, at the end, this is like a small community or a set of small communities that can organize themselves around a social cause. And at the end, we have then some incentives in order to improve the behaviors of the citizens in order to spend less, to save energy, to not to use their own car, but using a sharing car. So that's the main idea. But for the trial, so we just launched the trial last week. The cause, so the social cause is around schools. So we have selected 3 different schools in different neighborhoods, And yes, and so around these schools we are trying to motivate people, parents, students, to improve their behaviors. Also, a very important aspect is to increase that people go more often to local shops. That's also an aspect that we want to address. Okay, so I will try to now to play a video. Let's see. This is in Portuguese, but with English subtitles. So I hope that we can understand. Could you? No sounds? Look, this is a short video just to get you an idea about what this social market is about.
Que geram pontos, todos podem obter benefícios apoiando uma causa comum. Este ano, a nossa causa comum será uma escola. Este ano vamos ajudar uma escola a ganhar um prémio. A Joana ganha pontos sempre que usa uma bicicleta gira para pedalar pela cidade. O Manel ganha pontos por carregar o seu veículo num posto de carregamento da rede de mobilidade elétrica da cidade. A Marta utiliza muitas vezes o serviço de carros partilhados e ganha pontos. Hoje, dá boleia à sua vizinha Vera e aproveita para trocar 2 dedos de conversa. A caminho do escritório, o André ganha pontos por ir à loja do Sr. Alfredo comprar fruta fresca para comer à meia da manhã. Na loja do Alfredo, quem apoia a escola que tem mais pontos tem sempre vantagens e volta para continuar a pontuar. A Sara ganha pontos quando vai a pé para o trabalho. Pelo caminho, aproveita para queimar umas calorias e ganhar uns pontos extra na sua saúde. O Ricardo gosta de usar as scooters elétricas partilhadas para mostrar a cidade aos seus amigos turistas. Ganha pontos em todos os sentidos. O pai da Matilde ganha pontos quando mostra o que sabe sobre eficiência e mobilidade sustentável. Na escola da Matilde, ganham pontos com a poupança de energia. Nada de acender luzes desnecessárias ou deixar os computadores ligados durante a noite. Neste mercado social digital, a comunidade é uma equipa unida na luta pela vitória, juntos por uma causa comum e uma Lisboa mais sustentável. 1 a 1, todos ganham.
Okay, as you can see, this is just to give an idea, but this is a movie that was produced really for the end user, for the citizens. So this is a way that we are using to convince people to use the application. And so this is just some screenshots of the application. I invite you to just to load it. This is a progressive web app, so you just have to load and to install it in the mobile. I'm afraid we are just supporting Android yet, so iOS should come in 1 month. This is in Portuguese, so this is also a good chance to learn some Portuguese if you want. So we were very, so we make a good effort in terms of the user experience. So we have a table where you can get an idea about how you are improving your behavior, how you're progressing. And then as you improve your behavior, so I'm going to explain technically more later how we're doing this, but we are collecting the data from sensors, and then we translate this data into points or tokens. So you receive some notifications when you earn these points, and then you can spend these points in goods or services from the local shops. So that's a way to incentivize also citizens to participate. And we're also using some gamification techniques in order to engage the users. Okay, so this is a very high level of the solution of the architecture. So by using reThink, this means that most of the business logic is in the device or in the mobile. So we have Hyperties that are executing on the device. Basically, we have Hyperties that are observing the behavior of the user and then reporting to the rating agent that we have at the backend, which are also executing some Hyperties, but in the backend. And so they rate the data collected and transform into tokens that are then transferred to a wallet that is running in the user device. We also, so the data is collected from local sensors or from external platforms. And then by using reThink, all the data, all the private data is in the device. This is still a challenge, so we are using really just a web app. At the end, this is a web app. And so we are using really very new technologies, and we're facing some issues, but okay. One of the issues is that in case you lose your device, you lose your data. But we are working on a way to secure, so to have a backup service that should be selected by the user, so not to be dependent on some service provider. And the identity is also managed by some third party, like Google or even Altice, if you want. So this is decoupled. So one thing is the service and another thing is the identity of the user. And of course, you can then also chat with other citizens by using as much as possible, peer-to-peer communications. Okay, so that's it. Just to conclude, yes, so we believe that decentralized communications is a very good opportunity for telcos to differentiate from the global big web players, but it will take some time. It's still one of the big challenges is really how to monetize. And I'm facing lots of difficulties to get internal support for this because it's really very difficult to say how can I get money from this kind of approach. So I started by started to apply reThink with human-to-human communications, but I can't convince anyone right now to invest money on this kind of use cases. So now I'm looking on smart cities, and at the end it fits well. So we have some budget, and also because of privacy concerns that for smart cities is quite an issue, and also because smart cities we have different systems deployed. Even in terms of the business environment, we have lots of different stakeholders. It's a very good use case for decentralized communications. What's next? So, as I said, we are not using blockchain. We are still a bit, let's wait and see what happens. So we are aware of all the problems with blockchain. But we would like to use these incentives, the economic incentives that blockchain can provide. And that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paulo.